Look at a modern computer processor. It can calculate billions of operations a second, route immense digital traffic, and power artificial intelligence. But at its core, this highly advanced engine is just highly organized dirt, specifically silica sand. Silicon is the second most abundant element in the Earth's crust. If you look down at a beach or look across an industrial quarry, you are looking at the foundational raw material of the digital age. The question is how we actually get from a chaotic pile of rocks to a pristine, functioning microchip. Manufacturing a semiconductor requires the most extreme pipeline of chemical purification and atomic organization we have ever engineered. To understand how this works, it helps to strip away the multi-billion-dollar industrial labs. In fact, pioneers of homebrew chipmaking, like Jerry Ellsworth, have successfully built working semiconductors right in their garages, using pottery kilns and over-the-counter chemicals. Making a basic transistor requires only a few irreducible steps. You apply a light-sensitive chemical coating called a photoresist to a slice of silicon, expose specific areas to light, and then etch away the unexposed patterns with an acid. The underlying physics of that garage experiment are identical to the processes running inside a top-tier commercial fabrication plant. The difference is entirely a matter of scale. A hobbyist might spend a weekend building a single visible transistor. A modern CPU relies on billions of microscopic ones, all working together without a single error. Scaling that garage physics down to the atomic level requires a flawless, unbroken chain of extreme industrial alchemy. The process starts in an electric arc furnace, baking raw quartz with carbon to yield metallurgical-grade silicon. This material is about 99% pure. For steelmaking, that's fine. For electronics, 99% is heavily contaminated with transition metals like iron and aluminum. To strip out those metals, the solid silicon is pulverized and reacted with hydrogen chloride gas in a fluidized bed reactor. This chemical reaction turns the silicon into a rising vapor called trichlorosilane, leaving the heavier, solid metallic impurities to drop away entirely. That purified vapor is then pumped into a Siemens reactor. Inside, intense electrical currents heat U-shaped silicon rods to over 1,000 degrees Celsius. As the gas touches the hot surface, it chemically decomposes, depositing perfectly clean, solid silicon layer by layer. The result of this vapor deposition is electronic-grade silicon. It boasts a purity level of 99.9999999999%. That string of nines is non-negotiable. At the nanoscale, a single stray atom of a heavy metal will derail the flow of electricity and short out the processor. We now have perfectly pure silicon, but structurally it's a mess. The newly formed material is polycrystalline. It is full of jagged, misaligned grain boundaries that will block electrons from moving smoothly. To fix the structure, the solid chunks are melted down inside a quartz crucible at 1400 degrees, returning the silicon to a chaotic, glowing liquid. This is where the Czochralski process begins. A perfectly ordered monocrystalline seed crystal is lowered into the melt. As the seed is slowly pulled upward, it acts as a template. It forces the liquid atoms to snap into the exact same rigid, geometric grid pattern as they solidify. Over several hours, this careful extraction produces a massive, flawless cylindrical ingot of silicon, which is then sliced into the paper-thin circular wafers used in manufacturing. This crystal growth enforces absolute geometric order onto the matter. It provides the flawless blank canvas required to build nanoscale architecture. With the blank canvas ready, factories use a process called photolithography to print millions of transistors onto the silicon simultaneously, rather than trying to carve them out one by one. This stage begins by evenly coating the rotating wafer with a photoresist, dispensing a highly light-sensitive chemical across the entire surface. Next, an optical system shines ultraviolet light through a patterned stencil, known as a photomask. Where the light passes through, specific areas of the resist react and change their chemical state. During development, those exposed areas are washed away, exposing the bare silicon underneath. This allows an acid to carve the intended circuit pattern directly into the unprotected layer. Once the pattern is carved, the wafer undergoes doping. Elements like boron or phosphorus are forcefully implanted into those exact carved trenches, permanently changing the silicon's electrical properties to create active conductive channels. Photolithography is the precise mechanical translation layer. It takes abstract digital logic from a designer's computer and renders it as a physical, functional structure. At this point, the wafer is covered in billions of individual transistors, but in isolation, they are completely useless. They have to be wired together to pass electrical signals. To connect them, engineers use the copper dual damascene process, an additive metallization sequence that builds vertical and horizontal wiring in incredibly tight spaces. Instead of laying down flat wires, the process starts by etching vertical shafts, called vias, and horizontal pathways directly into an insulating dielectric block. Those microscopic cavities are entirely flooded with copper through electroplating. Then, the excess metal is polished perfectly flat, creating a flush surface so the next complex layer of wiring can be stacked directly on top. This dense, three-dimensional copper network allows the CPU to route massive amounts of electrical traffic without bottlenecks, delivering the raw bandwidth modern computing requires. We now have a completed chip, but it is effectively trapped on the silicon wafer. It exists in a microscopic world, and its connection points are far too delicate to plug into a standard motherboard. First, a precision saw slices the massive silicon disk into individual, isolated squares, known as dies. To get these dies ready for the real world, manufacturers use a technique called flip chip packaging. Small solder bumps are attached directly to the die's microscopic connection pads. The entire die is then flipped upside down and lowered onto a thicker substrate. Heat is applied to melt the solder bumps, permanently bonding the nanoscale circuitry to the larger external pins. Packaging serves as the ultimate translation layer. It gives invisible atomic switches a physical footprint large enough to interface with our hardware and generate visible data. This is the full physical journey of our digital infrastructure. Raw silica dirt is subjected to temperatures hotter than lava, molecular distillation, and atomic alignment, emerging finally as a packaged thinking device. Historically, maintaining this unbroken pipeline has required multi-billion-dollar cleanrooms and the most heavily controlled industrial environments on Earth. But the cost and complexity of this pipeline are no longer impenetrable. Platforms like Tiny Tapeout and open-source process design kits have lowered the barrier to entry for custom hardware. These tools allow anyone to design custom silicon architecture right in a standard web browser. Those designs are then grouped together and physically manufactured on a shared silicon wafer. The physical alchemy of silicon remains incredibly complex, but the power to harness the most sophisticated manufacturing process on the planet is now accessible to anyone with an internet connection.